Hello, everyone. So, guys, let's have a small conversation. And this conversation is not to pick on anybody or to pick a fight, but this is a conversation that I have had with some people that are planning to come to South Africa, either as digital nomads or expats. But I want to speak mostly to people that are considering becoming expats in Africa. Now, there are some few corrections that I feel that needs to be made, and this is something that I have said in the past before. Do not go anywhere in Africa without first visiting the country of your choice on the African continent. Now, let's correct this. And of course, this is not for everybody because some people, I understand, know geography and also know that Africa is not a country, but a continent with 54 countries. Now, I want to talk to those that do not have that knowledge, but they watch YouTube videos and TikToks and Instagrams of other people from your country, particularly Americans, but to be more specific, African Americans. I know that most of the African American history of somehow they got there, and I know about UFDAs that always like to insert yourselves in a conversation that's got nothing to do with you because you reject the history. So you don't have to comment because it's not about you. You and your FDA do your thing and it's all good and well, and I wish you luck. But these are for people that recognize that their roots come from Africa and therefore they identify as African Americans or even Black Americans, but know that their ancestors or their descendancy comes from Africa. So if you are one of, is it FDA or FBA? I think it's FBA. This conversation is not for you, and it's not for you to even respond because if you do, you go down, I go straight to hell. I want you to know that. So now let's talk about my Black American brothers and sisters who consider themselves as Africans or African descendants. Guys, Africa is not a country. That is why some of you are making the mistake of going to an African country thinking that's the entire African continent. And then when you get there, it is not unicorns and everybody singing kumbaya and you are going to be living in absolute euphoria. This is Africa, and a lot of damage has been done to Africa. And I'm talking about the continent of Africa. There are invaders that came into the continent. They pillaged the continent, whatever it was underneath it, and went and built their countries with our natural resources. And then what did they do? They put up things that will make us to be distracted by hating each other along tribal lines. And because of that, they also left behind, and not even left behind, they are still here. They've caused havoc in Black Africans' lives. So much so now that when you come to the continent or one of the countries in the continent, you get to experience things that makes you extremely upset. Why are you upset? Is because you thought Africa was a country and then you went to one African country, which I'm not going to specifically name, but there are some countries in Africa that are getting the attention of African Americans that have taken an interest in becoming expats here. You are buying property and only to find out that property is not the person who sold you the property, belongs to somebody. It's a scam that is being run in some other countries. And this is because of systems. You cannot go to a country that, number one, you don't know what their systems are. And if systems that you are used to are in place there, because chances of you getting scammed, chances of you getting robbed, chances of you living uncomfortably because now you are seen as a different human being because there are some African countries simply because you don't speak the language of the country you landed on, and you speak 100% English, you are going to be seen differently, even called a different identity that is not your identity. And I've heard other African Americans saying that in this specific country where I live in, they call me a white person. Why? Because you speak a language that is not theirs, but mostly spoken by white people. So that's the first thing that you ought to have done, is to research where you are going to and what you are signing yourself up to. Forget about the hype, forget about the marketing, as well as all this other stuff that was imposed on you that attracted you to this particular African country. You've got to do your research. Once you've done your research and you've got your blueprint of what you are coming to, before you even move, you've got to pay that country or that region that you saw online, on television, or YouTube, or TikTok, or Instagram, by seeing it for yourself. Because now I am watching videos of African Americans now changing their minds and they want to go back to the United States. And you know what they do, or what they say, in so doing? They will say, I'm never coming back to Africa. There are 54 countries on the African continent. So when you never coming back to Africa, what did other African countries do to you? What did South Africa do to you? What did Zimbabwe do to you? What did Zambia do to you? What did Malawi do to you? What did Kenya do to you? What did Tanzania do to you? What did Angola do to you? What did Eritrea and Ethiopia do to you? Do you see? I just started with that. Is an entire SADC region, which is a Southern African Development Community. And then what did the Democratic Republic of Congo did to you? What did Rwanda did to you? What did Central African Republic did to you? All the way to the country that you now have experienced bad things and has made you so mad that you no longer want to look back by going back to the United States. So do you understand now where your fault lies? It lied on your ignorance. And it lied on you and your ignorance so much so that you packed up your things and went to an African country thinking Africa, and you got disappointed. I even saw a video of a lady that was like, oh my goodness, I can't stand the lizards. I'm a South African citizen and I live in South Africa, and I can tell you we don't have those large lizards you are talking about. And I've been to some African countries, and the only thing that I always dread whenever I'm going to these particular countries is the lizards. Not only the lizards, it's the guinea worm as well. I had an experience with a guinea worm, and don't even think about it, it just makes my blood, you should have known all these things. Now you are talking about water not clean. You're talking about electricity getting cut off. You're talking about lizards. You are talking about the weather. You are talking about scams and all these things. Why didn't you do your research? And not all African countries are like that. Some African countries have systems in place, particularly when it comes to land or anything that has to do with money and money transactions. There are laws in place the similar way as where you come from in the United States. That is why some African Americans, when they land in South Africa, everything is familiar to them. Everything. When I say everything, I mean everything. Yes, there is African distinctionness that they do see, but they get to enjoy life because South Africa is a soft spot to land on. And I always say to African Americans, if you want to settle in Africa, take a trip to South Africa. That should be your first point of view of things, because Once you've experienced South Africa, and I know what your opinions are going to be, because in South Africa, you may experience some things that you experience in the US in terms of infrastructure, in terms of demography, in terms of entertainment, in terms of jobs as business opportunities and other opportunities as well. You will see where you fit in, and then after you've experienced South Africa, that's when you can spread out onto the African continent and see if this is what you want to see. Because I've heard other African Americans say, I don't like South Africa because it's not African enough. But those also are quite ignorant because they come to South Africa and they go to the touristy areas, they go to Sandton, Rosebank, they go to Fourways, and all of these places where the general public of South Africa is not at. Because the majority of South Africans are not rich. We have rural areas, they could bother themselves to be part of the what do you call this things to do when they arrive in South Africa, but they only roam around touristy areas, and then they conclude that, oh, South Africa is not African enough. But have you been to Mpumalanga? But have you been to Limpopo? But have you been to Northwest? But have you been to the Free State? But have you been to KwaZulu Natal? But have you been to the Eastern Cape? That is where you will find the Africa you are looking for. But no, they never talk about that in their itinerary when they are in South Africa. So again, when you're going to come to Africa, number one, you got to have a pure spirit, because Africa is a land of spirits. And if you have a bad spirit, and I'm talking a dark heart, and by saying a dark heart, I'm not talking like you think of unaliving people, just when you have a mean spirit, the energy on the African continent is gonna match you, and you are going to not like being in Africa. There's a lot of things that go on in this continent, and you've got to be strong. Africa is not for the weak. Africa is not for the weak, and I'm talking about the entire continent. I'm not just talking about a certain part of Africa. If you have a mean spirit, you are not going to enjoy Africa. Come here with a pure spirit, a pure heart, and a heart that is willing to open up and learn things, and also how to integrate yourself to the people of that country you are going to land on, because that is how you quickly get accepted. And that is when all the name calling, such as you're a white person because you do not speak the language of the natives. When I say have a heart that is pure and open, enough for you to learn phrases of languages of the countries that you are going to land in, because that's how quick you get accepted into that land. Well, in South Africa, when you come and you have a pure heart, and we can tell and can feel and see your pure heart, you, according to our culture, you are going to be given a name, whether that is a Sutu name or a Venda name or a Tswana name or a Zulu name or a Xhosa name. The moment you get that, you just know that you have a pure heart. But if you are going to come here and you are not going to get a African name, check your spirit, check your heart, because sooner or later, the African spirits are going to spit you out by making your time in Africa unbearable. So these are the things that you need to research before you come in here. Learn that there are 54 countries on the African continent, and Africa has gone through a lot. And the last thing that we want as Africans is for another Black person saying horrible and ugly things about us because of your ignorance. Do not be ignorant. Research, visit, and then when you go back home, count the costs. Don't just hop on a plane with your luggage, and then when you land and then you stay for a few months or weeks, and then you realize what's happening. You shouldn't be in that position at all. You should not be in that situation. Oh, Wi-Fi here is slow. Oh, not everywhere in Africa. I can tell you that. I can tell you that not everywhere. Transportation system, the infrastructure is not developed. Not all African countries are like that. Not all African countries are like that. Do your research. And I'm talking to you as well, who is still in the United States because of all the shenanigans that are happening in your politics. And you are literally packing your bags and you are coming back home. Well, in South Africa, we'll say welcome home because we believe this is your home. And you haven't done your research. You're going to land in South Africa and you'll be like, I don't like South Africa. It's too this, it's too Western. And yet there are 9 provinces in this country. And some of these provinces are rural provinces. And African practices are still being done to this day. But are you willing to eat food that is cooked on fire? That's African. You want African experience? Then you are going to have to get rid of all the Americanness of yours and then go to the woods with the people of the place that you have landed in. Go fetch water in the river and put it on your head. Of course, the water is going to be purified. All right. Anyways, they're not going to make you drink the water because you're a visitor. Your water is going to be bought pure water. You want to eat nice African food or nice South African food, you are going to put your knees on the ground and put together a fire. And that is where you are going to have your African experience. At night, there's no electricity. The fire that you cooked on becomes the fire to lit up the central house that you all, which is a kitchen and also a hangout spot for the family. You are going to hear stories being told of ancient times, and I'm talking folk stories as well as fairy tales that are going to be spoken. Well, they are going to be told in a native language. Of course, you're going to have somebody who can speak and understands English will translate all of that to you. And then when you are done going to sleep, your eyes are going to poke like needles because of the smoke, and your clothes are going to smell of smoke. You want the African experience, right? That is where you are going to get it. And if that's not your thing, then of course, staying in the suburbs, cities, as well as the touristy areas, possibly that is for you. Don't come to another person's country and then you mock it. It is uncultural. It's uncultural for you to land here because you wanted to be with your people, but you can't stand their food. It is rude. And that is why your heart needs to be in the right place when you come to South Africa or Africa for that matter. Because if your heart is pure and open, you will be willing to put in your mouth what everybody is eating in that household or in that particular region you are at. You can't be, the moment you do a face, you are insulting the ancestors of that particular region. And for us, we believe that if you don't like something or it does not look appetizing to you, by just pretending to eat it is enough for us. That way shows us that you respect the culture, you respect the food. If you reject a person's food, you are rejecting their culture, you are rejecting everything about them. But you can pretend and we'll be happy, we will laugh at you, ha ha ha, and then we'll say, okay, it's okay. But when you make a face and say, oh, this is awful, you are not going to be happy on the African continent because the ancestor spirits are going to be kicking your butt out of here. So please, whatever you do your research. Do your research and then visit. That's the first thing that you need to do. And then go back home, count the costs. And then if you feel like you were not satisfied with the country that you had visited, go visit another until you find what vibes with you. Not everywhere in Africa is the same. Not everywhere. There are systems in place in some other countries. There are no systems in place in other countries. There's corruption, there's scammers, the robbers. And of course, the nature has its own elements, like lizards. My goodness gracious me, I could not. I could not. Some countries, when I go, and I'm talking African countries, I like to remain indoors, like in the hotel, because sometimes even in the city, you see these big lizards, and you're like, "How? What are you doing here?" So I'm just saying, do not come to Africa ignorant, and don't come with a mean spirit. Leave that at the airport in the United States. You will meet it when you come back. But if you live it in America and you come to the African continent with a pure heart, trust and believe me, you will not want to go back to the United States, irrespective of whether that country is developed or not. You will enjoy the people, you will enjoy the food, you will enjoy everything about that country because you have a pure heart. I'm just telling you, all right? Do what you will with this information. But everyone else that are coming to the continent, guys, we appreciate you. We love that you are choosing us to come and becoming expats or digital nomads and tourists, because let me tell you something, it does create jobs, even though in some aspects it does increase prices, like property prices, food prices, and kind of like sometimes lower down the quality of life because of prices rising up. Africa is quite cheap. Well, I'm not talking about the entire African continent, because there's some African countries they're charging in dollars. You're like, why are you charging in dollars for? Because when you charge in dollars, you are making things super expensive. And therefore, it makes no difference for you coming from the US, coming to an African country, and then they are charging you in dollars. Second of all, the prices are almost the same as the US. And you keep hearing on YouTube that, oh my goodness, in Africa, things are so cheap. And you'll be like, no, that's because you have not traveled the African continent. Because there are countries on the African continent that are cheap. Food is cheap, rent is cheap, property is cheap, everything is cheap, including transportation. It might not be for the locals because a lot of people are coming through, but for you with a dollar, you can stretch it to Timbuktu if you want to. So please do your research and stay away from insulting, because when you become insulting, you are developing an unfair disadvantage of other people that are going to come behind you. Because now we'll feel like, oh, they are also here to mock us. They are here to be rude, to be obnoxious, and all of those things. And then a resentment is built unfairly on people that probably came here with good intentions. So if you have a comment, keep it to yourself. And as far as I know about Americans, y'all say if you don't have anything nice to say, shut the fuck up. Probably you should take your own advice. That's all I'm going to say in this video. Other than that, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel, and you are warmly welcomed. Please also click the bell notification because I've got more videos like this one. And don't forget to leave a comment down below. If it's from FBA, please stay the fuck out of my channel. This has got nothing to do with you. Go and talk to your fellow FBAers or whoever does FBA content. And then please also like the video, and I'll see you next time with a new video. Goodbye.